I was bleeding out on an operating table at 36 weeks pregnant when the doctor looked at my husband and said something that still gives me chills. If she wasn't pregnant, she'd already be dead. My baby, the same baby that 3 different doctors told me to abort, had literally been keeping me alive. This is the story of how my son saved my life before he even took his first breath. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Sarah, and in 2019 I was living what I thought was my perfect life. I was 28, married to my college sweetheart Jake for 5 years, and we had just bought our dream house in suburban Atlanta. After 2 years of trying, we finally got those 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. I'll never forget that moment. It was a Tuesday morning in March and Jake had already left for work. I was running late, but something told me to take one more test. When I saw those lines appear, I actually screamed so loud that our neighbor Mrs. Peterson knocked on our door to check if I was okay. The first few weeks were pure bliss. We told our families at Easter dinner and everyone was over the moon. My mom immediately started knitting baby blankets, and Jake's dad began talking about teaching his grandchild to fish. We were those annoying couples posting weekly bump photos and debating baby names at every dinner. But at 8 weeks things started going wrong. I began spotting, and not just a little. I'm talking about bleeding that had me changing pads every hour. My OB, Dr. Martinez, ordered bed rest and multiple ultrasounds. Each appointment brought more anxiety. The baby was measuring small, then smaller. Something wasn't right. At 12 weeks, we went in for what should have been our announcement ultrasound. You know, the one where you finally get to post that grainy black and white photo on social media. Instead, Dr. Martinez spent an unusually long time staring at the screen, clicking and measuring, his brow furrowed in concentration. "I need to bring in a specialist," he finally said. Those 7 words changed everything. Dr. Chin, the maternal-fetal medicine specialist, came in 30 minutes later. She was kind but direct. "Your baby has what's called anencephaly," she explained, pointing to the ultrasound screen. "The neural tube didn't close properly during development. Most of the brain and skull are missing." I couldn't breathe. Jake's hand found mine, but it felt like I was drowning. Dr. Chin continued, her voice gentle but clinical. "Babies with this condition are typically stillborn or live only a few hours after birth. I'm sorry, but this is incompatible with life." That phrase, incompatible with life, would haunt me for months. "What are our options?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Well," Dr. Chin said carefully, "most families in this situation choose to terminate the pregnancy. It would be a simple procedure at this stage and you could start trying again in a few months. There's no increased risk of this happening again." Terminate. Such a clinical word for ending my baby's life. I was scheduled for another ultrasound the following week to confirm the diagnosis. Those 7 days felt like 7 years. I barely slept, barely ate. I spent hours on Google frantically searching for miracle stories, for cases where doctors were wrong, for anything that would give me hope. But every article, every medical journal, every forum post said the same thing. Anencephaly is fatal. There are no survivors. The confirmation ultrasound was scheduled for a Friday morning. Jake took the day off work and we drove to the hospital in complete silence. The radiologist, a woman named Lisa who had been doing ultrasounds for 20 years, looked at our baby for what felt like an eternity. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "The diagnosis is correct." That's when I felt him move for the first time. Right there, in that moment of absolute devastation, my baby kicked. It was gentle but unmistakable, a little flutter that said, "I'm here, Mama." I started crying so hard I could barely breathe. "He's moving," I sobbed. "He's alive. He's moving." Jake was crying too, his hand on my belly, feeling our son's little kicks. In that moment, despite everything the doctors had told us, our baby felt real, felt alive, felt like he mattered. We named him Ethan, which means strong and enduring. Over the next few days the pressure began. My mother-in-law, bless her heart, meant well when she said, "Honey, maybe it's for the best. You're young, you can have other babies." My own sister suggested that continuing the pregnancy would be prolonging the inevitable suffering. Even some of our friends started treating us differently. A few stopped calling altogether. Others would give us these pitying looks and say things like, "When are you going to, take care of it?" 3 different doctors recommended termination. A genetic counselor spent an hour explaining all the reasons why carrying Ethan to term would be medically inadvisable. My insurance company called to discuss options and financial considerations. But every time I felt him move, every time I heard his heartbeat during our weekly checkups, I knew I couldn't end his life. This was my baby, my son. Maybe his time would be brief, but it was his time to live. Jake struggled more than I did. He worried about me, about the emotional toll, about what people would think. Are we being selfish? He asked me one night as we lay in bed, his hand on my growing belly. Are we prolonging suffering for everyone? He's not suffering, I told him. He's growing. He's moving. He's alive. And I'm his mother. It's my job to protect him, not end his life. At 20 weeks we had our anatomy scan. By now Ethan's condition was even more apparent, but something else showed up that would change everything. There were some irregularities in my blood work, and I had developed what the doctors called severe pregnancy-induced hypertension. My blood pressure was dangerously high, 180/110 at rest. Dr. Martinez put me on bed rest immediately and started me on blood pressure medication. We need to monitor this very closely, he warned. Preeclampsia can be life-threatening. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was fighting to save my baby's life, and now my own life was at risk. The next few weeks were a blur of doctor visits, blood draws, and stress tests. My blood pressure continued to climb despite medication. At 24 weeks I was hospitalized for the first time when my BP hit 200/120 and I started seeing spots. We may need to deliver early, Dr. Martinez told Jake and me during one of my many hospital stays. If your blood pressure doesn't stabilize, we're looking at serious risks, seizures, stroke, organ failure. But delivering early would mean Ethan would have even less time. Babies with anencephaly who are born prematurely rarely survive more than a few minutes. I begged for more time. At 28 weeks, everything went to hell. I woke up on a Wednesday morning feeling strange. My vision was blurry and I had the worst headache of my life. When I tried to get up to use the bathroom, I collapsed. Jake found me on the floor, unconscious and seizing. The ambulance ride to the hospital is a blur. I remember voices, sirens, Jake's hand holding mine, someone saying my blood pressure was critically high. I remember thinking, please don't let me die before I meet my baby. In the emergency room, chaos erupted around me. Multiple doctors, nurses running, machines beeping frantically. I was having what's called eclampsia, severe preeclampsia that can cause seizures, coma, and death. We need to deliver now, I heard someone say. Both lives are at risk. But I wasn't ready. Ethan wasn't ready. 28 weeks was too early. That's when Dr. Sarah Wilson, the attending physician in the ER, made a discovery that would change everything I thought I knew about my pregnancy. Wait, she said, studying my chart and comparing it to my previous medical records. When did her blood pressure issues start? Around 20 weeks, Dr. Martinez replied. It's been steadily climbing since then. Dr. Wilson frowned. That's unusual. Most pregnancy-induced hypertension doesn't present this severely this early. She ordered more tests, blood work, urine samples, and echocardiogram. The results came back 2 hours later, and Dr. Wilson asked to speak with Jake and me privately. I need to ask you something, she said, her voice serious. Before this pregnancy, did you ever have high blood pressure? Any heart problems? Any family history of cardiovascular disease? No, I answered weakly. I was completely healthy. I ran marathons. My blood pressure was always perfect. Dr. Wilson nodded slowly. That's what I thought. Sarah, I need you to understand something very important. You have an underlying heart condition called peripartum cardiomyopathy. It's a form of heart failure that occurs during pregnancy or shortly after delivery. My world tilted. Heart failure. Your heart muscle has been weakening progressively throughout this pregnancy. The high blood pressure, the preeclampsia symptoms, they're all secondary to your heart not pumping effectively. Jake grabbed my hand tighter. What does this mean? Is she going to be okay? Dr. Wilson looked at both of us with an expression I'll never forget. Here's the thing that's remarkable about your case, Sarah. Peripartum cardiomyopathy usually goes undiagnosed until it's very advanced, sometimes not until after delivery when women go into complete heart failure. The mortality rate is significant if it's not caught early. He paused, looking at my chart again. But your frequent monitoring due to the baby's condition meant we caught this early. The pregnancy symptoms that brought you in for extra care literally saved your life. I couldn't process what she was saying. I don't understand. Sarah, Dr. Wilson said gently, if you weren't pregnant with Ethan, if you weren't having all these extra appointments and monitoring because of his condition, we never would have detected your heart failure until it was potentially too late. Your baby's special needs led to the medical care that discovered your life-threatening condition. The room went silent except for the beeping of my heart monitor. Jake was crying. I was crying. The baby everyone told me to abort, the pregnancy everyone said was pointless, had saved my life. There's more, Dr. Wilson continued. The reason your body has been able to cope with the heart failure as well as it has is because of the pregnancy hormones and the increased blood volume that comes with carrying a baby. Pregnancy has been protecting you. I put my hand on my belly, feeling Ethan's gentle movements. My baby, my beautiful, imperfect, incompatible with life baby, had been my guardian angel all along. The next 8 weeks were the most challenging and most beautiful of my life. With my heart condition now diagnosed, I was started on medications that were safe during pregnancy. My blood pressure stabilized and my heart function improved. I was able to carry Ethan to 36 weeks. Much longer than anyone expected. During those weeks, everything changed. The friends who had distanced themselves came back, this time with casseroles and flowers and tears of their own. My mother-in-law, who had suggested termination months earlier, spent hours knitting the tiniest, most beautiful blankets for Ethan. I was wrong, she told me one afternoon as we sat together, feeling Ethan's kicks. I was so focused on the ending that I forgot about the living. He's living now. He's your baby now. And look what he's already done for you. My sister, who had been distant throughout most of the pregnancy, became my biggest advocate. She organized a baby shower. Not a traditional one, but a celebration of life, where we honored Ethan's existence and the time we would have with him. Even Dr. Chin, the specialist who had delivered the original diagnosis, admitted that she had learned something from our case. I've been doing this for 15 years, she told me during one of my final appointments. I focus so much on viability statistics that I sometimes forget about the individual miracles that can happen within these pregnancies. Ethan was born on November 15th via planned C-section. He weighed 4 pounds 2 ounces and he was absolutely perfect. He had anencephaly. Yes, the top of his skull was open and underdeveloped. But he had the most beautiful face, the tiniest fingers, and when the nurse placed him on my chest, he opened his eyes and looked right at me. He lived for 6 hours and 43 minutes. 6 hours and 43 minutes of pure, concentrated love. He never cried, he just looked around with these wise, peaceful eyes, as if he knew exactly what his purpose had been. Jake and I took turns holding him. We sang to him, told him stories, and thanked him over and over for saving Mommy's life. My parents came, Jake's parents came, and even my tough-as-nails sister cried when she held her nephew. When Ethan passed, it was peaceful. He simply closed his eyes in my arms and was gone. The pain of losing him was indescribable, but it was mixed with overwhelming gratitude for the time we had and for everything he had given us. 6 months later, my heart function had returned to normal. The cardiomyopathy, caught early thanks to Ethan's condition, was completely treatable. I'm now on a simple daily medication and have regular checkups, but my prognosis is excellent. Jake and I are expecting again, a little girl this time, and all the tests show she's perfectly healthy. When people ask if we're nervous given what happened with Ethan, I tell them that we're grateful. Grateful for modern medicine, grateful for early detection, and especially grateful for our son who saved my life. Ethan's nursery is still set up in our house, and his tiny handprints are framed above his crib. Sometimes I sit in there and tell him about his little sister, about how Mommy is healthy and strong because of him, about how his brief life had more purpose and meaning than most people's entire existence. I've learned that miracles don't always look the way we expect them to. Sometimes miracles come in the form of a baby who lives for less than 7 hours but saves his mother's life. Sometimes love is measured not in years or decades, but in heartbeats and moments and the courage to choose life even when the odds seem impossible. To every mother who has faced an impossible diagnosis, who has been told your baby is incompatible with life, who has felt the pressure to end a pregnancy because others can't see the value in your child's existence, know that your baby's life matters. Every kick, every heartbeat, every moment of their existence has purpose, even if that purpose isn't clear until later. Ethan taught me that there's no such thing as a life without meaning. His life, though brief, saved mine. His existence brought our family closer together, strengthened my faith, and showed me what unconditional love really looks like. He turned doctors into advocates, skeptics into believers, and a scared young mother into someone who understands that every life, no matter how different, how brief, how challenging, is sacred. 3 years later, as I hold my healthy daughter in my arms, I whisper to her about her big brother Ethan, the baby who saved Mommy's life. She'll grow up knowing that she has a guardian angel, a brother who made sure she would have a healthy mommy to love her. Some people still don't understand our choice. They think we put ourselves through unnecessary pain, that we should have ended the suffering earlier. But what they don't understand is that there was no suffering in loving Ethan. The only suffering would have come from not giving him the chance to fulfill his purpose, not allowing him to save his mama's life, not experiencing the pure, perfect love that existed between us for those precious hours. Every baby is a miracle. Every pregnancy is a gift. And sometimes the babies that the world deems imperfect are the ones who teach us the most about perfection, purpose, and the incredible power of a mother's love. Ethan may not have lived the long life I dreamed of for him, but he lived fully. He was loved completely. He served his purpose perfectly. And he will forever be my baby who saved me. If this story touched your heart, if you've walked a similar path of receiving devastating news during pregnancy, or if you've experienced the miracle of finding purpose in pain, please share your story in the comments below. You might be the hope someone else desperately needs to hear today. Hit that like button if Ethan's story moved you, and don't forget to subscribe for more real, raw stories about the incredible strength of the human spirit and the miracles that can happen when we choose love over fear. Remember, every life has value, every story matters, and sometimes our greatest blessings come disguised as our biggest challenges. You are not alone in your journey.